Now, I love going for the occasional harder achievement, and when I go through my Steam library so that Octopath had a funny achievement, I decided, hey, you know what would be a good idea? Going for this achievement. The achievement in question? Lone Traveler. Now, let me start by explaining what Octopath Traveler is and what makes this achievement so hard to get. Octopath Traveler is a turn-based RPG, meaning that there's a lot less control if and when you get hit compared to, say, Hollow Knight. A normal run sees you start as one of 8 characters, each traveling their own path and joining up with the other 7 over the course of the game, making for 8 paths traveled total. Oh, I get it now. But the Lone Traveling achievement, as the name suggests, sees you play as only one character traveling one path, the Octopath Traveler.
Time. I've done my research on it. I am sorry.
Now, for this challenge, I chose Cyrus. Not because I think he's the easiest to do this with, Trasaxis, but because he is my favorite character in the game. Oh, and just spoiler warning for every boss in Cyrus's route of the game, is somehow you did not see that coming quite yet. Now, chapter 1 starts us off pretty easy. All that happens is that we get fired from our job due to slander, we then find out that a book has been stolen, we then go look for the book. We play a funny minigame, and we find out that this book has been taken somewhere in the dungeon by someone evil. And then we go after the evil person. But overall, none of this is actually really that hard. It takes about 15 minutes, because this was meant to be done with only Cyrus. In the meantime, we seem to have made it to the first boss already. Ooh, it really is nothing special. I mean, this boss is designed to be beaten by only one character, and only took 6 minutes total to beat. Oh, I sure hope that the rest of the challenge is going to be just as easy. Now, I started recording for this on the 10th of December, and take until the 4th of April to actually beat the challenge, partly because of one glaring issue featuring throughout the challenge: grinding, as we'll see a lot more of real soon.
You should have studied harder.
The second chapter of Cyrus' story begins with some cheese, specifically Cyrus' evasive maneuver skill and save points. Dying will always send you back to your last save point, but encounter RNG resets with this. Evasive maneuvers lowers encounter chance. I think you probably see where this is going. By combining these two gameplay features, it is fully possible to get to areas you are not supposed to be able to get yet. One of the biggest problems Cyrus has is the mana cost for his spells, and given that he does not have built-in MP mana point regeneration, we should get this fixed. Thus, our first port of call is going to be the Shrine of the Trader. This shrine will give us access to Tressa's base job, Merchant. And I'll be frank here, this job is by far the best in the game. It gives survivability in the form of rest and sidestep. Trust me, sidestep good. But also MP regeneration with rest. Oh, and coverage for another element and access to spirit bows and technically money grinding. And finally, the best skill in the game, Hired Help. All things which Tressa just kind of gets. I told you she'd be a lot easier. So naturally, for the upcoming boss fight, I will not be using this job, preferring instead the thief job. Why, I hear you ask, but not really, because this is a pre-recorded video. This is because the second boss in Cyrus' story is weak to exactly nothing in Cyrus' base kit, or in the merchant kit, emphasizing how poor of an idea it is to go for the achievement. But he is weak to the thief's dagger and sword. The same dagger used by the thief to steal both HP and MP. That's right, more self-sustain in another character who's not Cyrus. But that alone is nowhere near enough to get us through this boss fight. No, instead we are going to gear up with enough late game to keep us alive, using that good old strat I talked about just earlier of evasive maneuvers and save points. Get used to the game over screen, because you will see it approximately every 2 to 3 minutes if you go for this challenge. First, we go to Marceline, Hanit's Chapter 4 area, where you pick up the following equipment: the High House Armor and the Knight Shield, both very important late game equipment with high defense stats. Surely that will get us through the sewers to the final boss. You fool, more grinding is necessary, and maybe a better staff. But where to get that better staff? Well, naturally, in Cyrus Chapter 4 area. Get ready for another fun track. This time to the small village of Duskbarrow, where I buy nothing less than the lame game rod, the Meteor Rod. Surely, this will get us through the boss, right? Wrong, because the funny skeletons the boss summons. So back to more grinding, this time in a new area, the Tomb of Kings, because enemies there are conveniently weak to Cyrus. And finally, after several more failed attempts at actually getting through Gideon, I realized something. All those late game areas gave me something else. Soulstones. Basically, they're magical nukes left behind in chests by someone with a lot of apparent free time. Specifically, the large soulstones are important. A great help with breaking through the skeletons and allowing me to actually get through and beat Gideon in a grueling 16-minute fight. Which sure is long, but not too long. This is what we call foreshadowing.
I still have so much to learn.
Now, this was probably the easiest chapter to beat. This regarding the first chapter, of course. And it has to do with Yvonne's moveset. Headmaster Yvonne gets one move per turn and always uses a physical attack during the turn, which we can avoid using Sidestep. Remember how I said Merchant was going to be useful? It literally nullifies this boss. However, if all we are doing is avoiding, we will end up in a losing battle of attrition, which is where Octopath's second signature mechanic comes crashing in: Boost. Now, boost points, or BP for short, can be expended to make an extra basic attack on your turn, or to buff the effects of skills or spells used. In the case of Merchant Sidestep, this means avoiding an extra attack. Okay, but then how do we get boost? That is the best part. It is completely free, so long as you stay alive. At the start of every turn, except for turns after you have just used a boosted attack, you gain 1 boost point. A maximum of 3 boost points can be used at once, meaning that every turn we get approximately 1.75 sidesteps in. This number is, surprisingly, bigger than 1. Thus, we end up positive in the sidestep economy, making us invincible, so long as we keep up enough mana to use sidesteps, which is easy enough through rest and or inspiriting plums. But if that was all there was to it, this video segment would be much shorter. No, Yvonne is smart. Yvonne gets 2 ads: Wind Mages. Unfortunately for Yvonne, this is not smart enough. If a traveler were to take a detour to the Forest of Purgation, making good use of evasive maneuvers once again, they would find there not only a purple chest they cannot open, but also a gold chest containing a Tempest amulet, reducing wind damage taken to 0.01 times the original amount. This means that the wind attack of the wind mages now does almost nothing. But these wind mages still have a physical attack, which means that for the first part of the fight you are fighting solely to get rid of the wind mages. Get rid of them and you are home free. Home free, that is, in 38 minutes. This fight took as long as all the other boss fights combined. But beating it allows us to continue to the final chapter. Full disclosure, I would love to say I did not use a guide. I made it on my own. But this final chapter somewhat broke me. Several hours on the wiki did not give me insight into how to beat Lucia without dying on my own. Emphasized by the ease with which I beat her in my main playthrough, I felt defeated. So I caved here and looked up a guide, the link to which is in the description. But thank you MarkV666 for a great and comprehensive guide. But before I decided to get to using the guide, I first had to get bodied by the boss a couple more times.
No! I still have so much to learn. I still have so much to learn.
So, in desperation, I started min-maxing my build, going through and beating a completely optional boss, using the same strategy as was used for Yvonne. This fight only took 13 minutes, however, much quicker than I thought. But hey, it gets us like 20 extra defense over Night Shield, so definitely worth it. At this point I started grinding even more, this time with the idea of unlocking Hunter's Patience skill. This took 2 lovely hours of my life. Heading back and trying the boss again still seemed to get me absolutely bodied. Finally giving up for about 4 months and coming back. Using the extra guide this time, I decided to lock in. The first thing we do is unlock the Apothecary side job, the 6th job we have unlocked after Merchant, Thief, Hunter, Dancer and Cleric. Meaning that in fact we're only missing 2, Scholar, which Cyrus is already, and Warrior, as well as the special jobs, but no, I'm not getting those. Then we get ourselves another amulet, the Void Amulet, we'll get back to this one a bit later, and we farm a ton of Soulstones L, for reasons I also will explain later. After this I realized just how much grinding we still need to do for the last support skills. This is not a quick process. In fact, I stopped filming grinding around time, because it is not interesting footage, and hearing the same 6 voice lines over and over and over again also does not make for the most enjoyable recording. And files were already getting close to 100 gigabytes. I hear these lines in my dreams now. Please, why did I decide to go for this achievement? But after all of this, surely we can finally beat Lucia first try. Nope. But okay, as I bash my head against the brick wall that is this demonic beast, let me explain what the actual plan is. Most bosses in Octopath do not change their faces based on health, but rather based on times broken. Now Lucia works much the same way. Why is this important? During her first phase she only uses physical attacks, which means we get to cheese with sidestep, right? Sounds easy. Wrong. The other bosses we cheesed had one different aspect about them. 1 turn per turn. Play fair. Lucia does not play fair. She gets duped. So, sidestep cheeses off the table then? Not entirely. You see, when we combine sidestep with the Dancer's support skill, an eye for an eye, and a bow or spear, we get the following. Lucia attacks, we flip a coin. On heads we get to strike back and chip total health, but more importantly, shield. That shield is what we want to break. But Jurre, I do not hear you ask, what about the sidestep deficit? Well, that can be solved too, through 2 complementary methods, Patience and BP boosting items. Starting with Patience. You see, when I earlier mentioned the Hunter support skill Patience, I neglected to mention what it does. Patience gives us a 5% chance, or 2 consecutive 1 coin flips, to take another turn at the end of each turn, allowing us effectively to get 1 more sidestep in. However, this does not regenerate boost points for us, so we can't get enough sidesteps, because we also have to regenerate MP on occasion. But during this turn we can also items, most importantly, Inspiriting Plums to regenerate a lot of MP at once, or BP boosting items. You see, when I said earlier that BP regenerates at the start of each turn, that was true, but it was not the entire story. An energizing pomegranate can give us 1 BP extra. Wait, then we might as well press sidestep during the turn, I hear you cry. But you would be wrong. You see, I had a I had an ace up my sleeve. Different grades of the same item. Energizing pomegranates, M, restoring up to 2 BP, or L, restoring a full 4 BP. With this, you can now press sidestep, boost it more often. But those 332 words only explain how we can battle off attrition ourselves through the first phase. But then how do we do damage? Well, my dear viewer, that is where the second phase comes in. You did not seriously think I was anywhere near done, did you now? During her second phase, she also uses dark type attacks. We cannot touch these with sidestep. All dark and physical are not the same thing. Luckily, we get ourselves a second lovely amulet, the Void Amulet. Much like its counterpart, the Temp Amulet, this amulet reduces a certain damage type to 1/100th of the original damage. And guess which damage type it reduces? Dark type damage. Yes, with this we are completely immune to her dark type attacks, meaning that we can easily— Wait, what? What do you mean she also knows Hellfire? Fire type is 10 over 1000 damage. Have no fear. This is what that unrecorded grinding was for. We picked up 2 more skills. Namely, Saving Grace, the Cleric support skill, and Heightened Healing, the final Apothecary support skill. Together these make an unstoppable combination. Saving Grace allows healing per cap. Heightened Healing, you'll never guess what it does. It heightens incoming healing and MP gain, allowing us to once again outlast the boss. Sort of. We are on a timer, but is that timer long enough? Now, Lucia has 84,084 health, because sure, that extra 84 was necessary. How much do our eye for an eye attacks do? 2 full damage, 10 on a crit. Now calculating how many turns all crits would take, assuming we roll perfectly average on counters, this would take us 8,401 turn, which in real world time is assuming 10 seconds per turn, and let's calculate— oh that's right, a really long time. Now 673 words into the boss fight, it is time to actually explain how we beat Lucia. For, you see, there's one saving grace. Remember all those soulstones we farmed? Yeah, it's not them. Instead, it is the best skill in the entire game. Sidestep. I mean, hired help. Roughly 30,000 leaves, the Octopath currency, we can triple boost hired help and deal around 8,000 damage a hit, massively shortening the time it would take for only a measly shit ton of leaves. But how do we get leaves? Well, we get leaves through grinding, and guess what I did a whole lot of? That's right, grinding. We enter this battle with 271,978 leaves.
I make my own fortunes. Let's try this. Make my own fortunes. Unparalleled! I spare no. Now, what next? I make my own fortunes. Now, what next? I make my own fortunes. Oh! What is the logical course of action?
And after a grueling 20-minute ordeal, taking 794 words, we run out. But at this moment, patience reached. And with the security of 2 sidesteps, overcapped healing from safe inspiration, I remember the grind. Not the JP grind, but the grinding for the soul stones now. And the guy who left them in comically big chests.
A gift.
We let go. 1 Shadow Soul Stone, a fitting type for the boss, and watch as Lucia crumbles to the ground, granting us victory. Sort of. You see, Cyrus's final chapter is rather unique. A majority of it takes place post-boss fight. A majority which is filled with combat encounters which have the potential to be, and are in fact, lethal, causing Cyrus 1 final death at the end of the challenge. A death which sends us back to the last save point. A save point I saved at immediately after beating the boss. I'm not going to let that happen to me. After this, all that is required is to investigate some books, play a minigame with a mural, and then roll credits. And get the achievement, which takes like 20 minutes. But finally, the achievement procs and the run is truly over. Now, overall this is a fun achievement, but I do not recommend attempting it without a guide. I have no fear that every single thing I did can be optimized and done quicker, with way less grinding. When we beat Gideon, we are already at 7 hours and 13 minutes, and when we do finish the run, we are at 13 hours and 35 minutes, almost doubling the time in the final chapter. Yet, a Lone Traveler achievement can be done in under 8 hours, the speedrun achievement for this game. So, if you intend to try this for yourself, please just use the guide from the beginning. It will save so much time and grinding. But in the end it was all worth it, because now I have... Wait, did I get again? Oh yeah, that's right. The most important things of all. A sense of superiority and bragging rights. That I am one of only 1.5% of players who decided this achievement. Oh, and I suppose a little special thanks is in order for the guy who proofread the script, if only because he left a completely inconspicuous comment telling me to do it. So thank you Jill Gabagool for sticking through approximately 10 hours with me and for proofreading the entire script. Oh, and the same thank you goes out to Ruben for also proofreading the script, and a very special thank you goes out to Thijs for making every last bit of music you hear in this video. Seriously, thank you. But with that, there's only one last thing for me to say, and that's see y'all next time.